deemed the celebrity whisperer by Playboy.
This is the best interview of the day.
Thanks for having me.
You hit the nail on the head.
100%.
Period, yeah.
Touch them. They're cracking me up.
Wear them, baby. She's good.
Taylor Ferber.
It's a woman's world, and we're lucky to be living in it. And by woman's world, I really mean Jurassic World, Jurassic Park, because these people are a bunch of ravaging savages, both politically and pop culturally. Women, we know this, not to sound all yay rah rah, are so powerful. But it seems like women are so powerful, in fact, that not only do non-women not know how to handle women, but women themselves don't know how to handle women. And we sort this shit out, okay? Before we all cannibalize ourselves like the fucking T-Rexes we are, become extinct, and never see the light of day again. And how are we starting off this sermon today? But with poor Miss Katy Perry, or, the carcass corpse that is left of her. Here's the thing. Katy Perry came out with a new, what was trying to be feminist female empowerment anthem. And if Katy Perry had one asshole before this, rest assured, she now has about 17 million new assholes from all the ones that the haters are ripping into her. And my take on this is that women hate so much and cockblock themselves and take away so much from each other and thereby themselves. And they're so concerned, constantly concerned with not being too sexual, with being sexy enough, with not being too smart, with being smart enough. It's like, can it, bitch? Just do it. Quit being so concerned. I mean, look at Sabrina Carpenter. She is a great example of somebody who is a total fierce sex kitten male fantasy object and plays with that character on stage, but is also a brilliant artist. But she doesn't need to be out here defending herself and going on a diatribe about it all day long. She just does it. And look, I understand, like, I'm not trying to seem holier than thou, like taking the place of Amber Rose, who I said in the last episode is now the saving grace, amazing grace to us all now, according to the rights out of thin air. But I too struggle with this, especially because, my whole motto and philosophy is women, having boobs out and brains out. And so because of this nature of dancing this dance and walking this walk, I too find myself, when I'm speaking intellectually, it feels like I have no room for error sometimes, right? Because it's like, oh, well, I can't be, if I'm playing up this fun Barbie blonde bimbo, I can't slip up. Like, I can't fuck up. There can be, this shit has to be airtight, like Katy Perry's aforementioned asshole was. I can't slip up here. And so I understand that. But ladies, we need to chill the fuck out. Let people live their lives and just let them be. Like, who cares? Okay. So what happened with Katy Perry? You feel like, I feel a type of way about all this. Okay. And I feel like this in and of itself, because I'm not totally shitting on Katy Perry, like, will prove my point, because women who watch this, mark my words, will come after me for this very thing. Okay. So what happened? But she does this song, It's a Woman's World, We're Lucky to Be Living in It. She's been promoting it, since the Declaration of Independence was written, like on every shoreline, what have you. I'm going to tell you my journey with this song. So I listened to it because I had it as a recommendation on Spotify as a new single. And so, I'm doing the show. You see me here. I got to be up on what the cool kids are talking about, And so I hear it, knowing nothing about the backlash and seeing no visual, no nothing. And I'm thinking to myself, this is I'm a little conflicted, because I'm like, it's so damn cheesy and it's trying so hard. It's also a little catchy, And I will say, I am not alone I'm not defending Katy Perry per se. I'm just deflecting the haters. But I feel like it's me and like the three gays out there standing who are like, this song's actually like kind of catchy. Like, I'm not gonna not listen to it if it happens to come on shuffle. I'm not going to skip it if I'm at the gym. You know what I mean? So that's my initial thoughts. I'm like, it's a little pick me. It's trying too hard. She's doing a comeback, super cheeseball. But you know what? Like, I may like twerk and work to it, if the time shall come. This is the part where I will say is super cringe is that who is the producer on this song? Of all the producers and all the lands across all the seas, like Christopher Columbus may or may not, maybe he's not the best example because of his ways, but either way, he could have spotted this shit, miles away. But Dr. Luke. And so Dr. Luke is the producer on this song. If you don't remember, Dr. Luke is the man who allegedly raped Kesha. So that in and of itself, y'all, I will talk all the live long day. Love it, hate it. It's a lifestyle, babe. Like money speaks, green speaks, capitalism speaks. So at the end of the day, this is a business. In my opinion, should Katy Perry, of all the people, should have had Dr. Luke produce this song? If you're trying to come out with this, like, yeah, women are reclaiming our power and feminist anthem, bitch, no. Come on, Katy. Common sense, Katy. Common sense, Katy with a C. Common sense, Caddy with the C. It's like, we're trying to pull for you here, but that is a part I could see that's really cringe. It's like, why? But at the end of the day, it's a business. She wanted to make a good song, and that shit is shameless. Like, I'm sorry to drop the coal in your stocking early, but that just is what it is. That part I could understand. Cringe, McFringe. Okay. So the haters are going insane because Katy Perry, what she was trying to do with this, okay, and she did a subsequent behind the scenes video that no one asked for. Like the behind the scenes video basically came out before the actual video. I don't even know. Okay. The timeline doesn't matter.
Ooh, we're not about the male gaze, but we really are about the male gaze.
But basically, people are speculating she knew that it was going to get hate, given that she had to do a behind the scenes video explaining herself. But she explains that she was trying to do something super satirical, which, like, why you got to explain satire? Number one, fine. And slapstick, in that she was pointing out commercialism, the male gaze, and is over the top, super, super sexualized in this video. She has her butt out. She has like a close up of squeezing her tits in the camera. Is wearing a G-string thong, the whole thing. And so people, and namely women though, and I looked on poor Katy. Okay, I put on my hard hat. I put on my hazmat suit. I went into the caves in the depths of however many years BC, into the caveman drawings on the walls of Katy Perry's Instagram. Every single one of her posts about this video just has people, women, annihilating her for putting this out as an example. They're like, oh, this is how reductionist, how degrading, this exact indulging the male gaze of just being a sex object and objectifying yourself. That's how I'm a powerful woman, Katy Perry. That's the example that I have to show my daughter. What are you actually saying? Like, this ain't it. You're missing the mark. There's USA Today op-eds. Like, as you know, there would be people, the media had their alarm set for 8 o'clock a.m., woke up, poured their haterade, and were ready to jump on this shit about how it's such a failure, how she's stuck in the past, how it's very kitschy California girls, with the cupcakes as her tits in that case. But like, this is 2024, babe, and that ain't gonna fly anymore. And so people are just railing. I mean, it's crazy. Even Perez Hilton came out and said this. And this dude has seen it all.
I don't think I've seen a comments section on the Y tube this brutal from a major artist in forever.
And it's really upsetting too, because people are also like, we get it, Katy, like you're hot. Like, and she does. She looks, by the way, bomb. Like, I don't know how many kids this woman has pushed out thus far, but to have a body like that is sex goddess body. Like, she looks fire. And people are so mad about the entire thing. And my initial reaction to all of this is, number one, okay, why are we like, it ain't that serious, bro. It ain't that serious. It's Katy Perry and a cheesy pop song. Why does she have to be your feminist manifesto? This isn't Gloria Steinem. Like, chill the fuck out and relax. But also, why isn't Katy Perry allowed to look hot? She does. I was like, damn, bitch. Okay. She looks fire. And why are women, again, so hell-bent on cock blocking themselves? I.e. Pussy Island, how Zoe Kravitz had to rename her movie title, right? Because pussy was offensive to woke feminists, or how, women shouldn't be on OnlyFans or hot moms. I see this all the time on Instagram. Like, you shouldn't be acting that way and looking that hot. You're a mom. Like, you're supposed to be perpetually Mother Mary. And she didn't even have sex. It's like, why are you guys so, again, having this morality police on each other and this weird fetish that our culture has of taking power away from women? It's so wild to me. It's like, let her be hot. Let her have this like gay forward. There's also like a gay pandering moment with two gay men kissing that has nothing to do with anything. Let her have the American flag over her tits. But again, it ain't that serious. She doesn't have to dictate what a woman is or isn't to you. So quit being so bent out of shape. Pull the Katy G-string out of your butt and let's move on with our day. It's like, if she wants to be, gonna put in the caveat of try to be satirical, let her do it. And a lot of people said this was an aim and a miss, kind of a failed attempt at what Lily Allen did with It's Hard Out There for a Bitch. And her whole thing is how, going in on men and the machine and, the systems that be and capitalism and the patriarchy and all, the Hollywood machine of having to nip tuck women and make them this perfect sex object and all this, and how that shit is actually like dark. Like I see that. I saw a video once and it made me sad. I didn't want to revisit that time again. And, why does everything have to be such an intense, like, we hate everything, we're mad, we're angry, like, let Lily Allen do her thing, cool. Katy Perry do her thing, cool. Again, it doesn't have to be the, testament to your life story. Like, it's not that big of a deal. But further, it's really kind of crazy to me how women, not men, right? You're thinking, oh, well, of course men aren't going to go in on this because they're going to think this is like a hot woman, shaking her ass and tits, barely wearing anything. She's hot. It's Katy Perry. Like, I ain't complaining, right? But this is where it's become crazy because you have the women acting like the men who put these very ideals and arbitrary values in place about women being smaller and being, degraded based on how they present themselves. Like, the Madonna whore, they're the whore. And so for women to buy into this and hurl it at other women, their whole thing is you're trying to speak against the male fantasy, but giving it exactly what it wants and indulging the male gaze and being a sex object. And in my mind, first of all, female sexuality is such power. And I'm going to speak for myself. I'm not speaking for Katy Perry. I'm not speaking for, the ghost of Richard Simmons or anybody else. Men aren't dictating shit, at least not for me. We decide, we make the rules, we decide how we want to portray and put our sexuality into the world. I ain't having any man telling me what to do. I decide that. And that's what's so powerful. And that's what's so short-sighted of all of these haters is that they fail to see that, what power it really is. And who did understand this in a way, and they get a lot of shit now, but are, the bra burning feminists. So I actually saw an incredible documentary that I highly recommend about Norman Mailer, who, if you don't know, was an iconic 2-time winning Pulitzer winner, literary genius, but was really a provocateur and really just was out there, would push up against norms and conventions and challenge the status quo and was completely, a nonconformist. He alluded to what ultimately is cancel culture now and having one school of thought, which again, he always pushed up against and warned what that could turn into, that ultimately is a fascist society. But when you think about it, he was really reflective of like the 50s, which was another version of that, right? Like the Stepford wife, the man goes to work and then the Stepford wife has the apple pie and then we all watch Johnny Carson at night sitcoms, right? In the sort of cog of what you have to be in society. And he saw it at that time, but the sentiment of what he was saying is so reflective of now, of we have to dissent. We have to have an array of thoughts, opinions, and push up against, again, any normalcy and narratives, or else like you're straight looking like fascist, sweetie. I don't know what else to tell you. It highlights in the documentary how he lived very unbounded and in a very unconventional way and pushed up against like, why do we live this way in a society? Well, who made these rules? Why do we all just live in the matrix and live by them and then do like play your proper role in society and then basically die? And was like myself, like very existential, which I love. But he lived outside the bounds. He had 6 wives, 9 kids, but by no means hated women, right? But because of his unconventional views, and this is what I love so much and what I love to see when it prevails today, is he had a very vibrant discussion debate in the 70s with every single prominent feminist at the time and went toe to toe with them. And the thing that was so fascinating about this is a little sidebar on free thought, but how he said as somebody who would provoke and who would make people think that he would be wrong more than he'd be right. And that's okay. And that people didn't have to agree with him. That's what a great provocateur does. But further, these women, still, even though they wildly disagreed with him, they still, respected him and wanted to hear what he had to say. But their whole thing at the time was, you don't dictate, guys or collective men. You don't dictate. Hence, my tits don't have to be propped up in this perfect, neat little Stepford Wives bra. No. I'm going to burn that bitch and my nipples are going to be popping out and I own my sexuality and you don't, sir. You don't, bucko. And so that was really the glory of what they were all about. It's like for all of this time, we were put in this box and guess what? No man, no entity, no person can dictate that power and own that power and embody it but myself. And I should choose on the grounds that I want, how I will exhibit that, embody it, and live that out, which was so genius, right? Which I love about, like, that's what I love about a good, I'm not shaving the armpits in advocacy of sticking it to the man, but I am all about that bra burning sentiment. It's like, right. Who said I have to be all nice and packaged this way and all squeaky clean so it's appropriate for society? No, how about fuck that? And so this is what goes back to my Katy Perry thing of women so bought into you're so over-sexualized. Oh, you're objectifying yourself. Oh, that's not how to behave. Oh, no, get a grip, okay, and swallow the reality pill that you yourself can be empowered by this and back off any other woman who chooses to. Like, there's so much untapped power in there and you're just bought in, babe. And so welcome to the Matrix, I'll tell Keanu that, you say hi because you're sadly not on that other side yet. And so I'm going to leave this little segment before I get into the next part. This is kind of like, in essence of all this is I get daily, it's called Daily Art. It's an app I have, and it's just daily pieces of art throughout history that are highlighted. And I thought how fitting this morning was a piece called The Hunt by a Scottish painter. His name was Robert Burns in the 1920s. And of all things, it portrayed the goddess of hunting. And it was such a beautiful, powerful piece. And you see these women nude, but really strong. And they're with all these animals in the jungle and leopards and, all kinds of wildlife. And it always like does a little description in the app. And at the end, it says something like, isn't that powerful? Or like, isn't that beautiful? And it's like, right, that's what it's about. So why don't we back the fuck off Katy Perry, let her live, whether her comeback is a flop or not, and live in that power, right? Because like, what is the alternative bringing you really satisfaction in your life? Like, I would converse with Mick Jagger, can't get no satisfaction, and see about that. So next is, again, this is a little bit of a different, but kind of still on the same in the same vein is Kamala Harris, who you are going to see this woman everywhere. Okay. She is Jesus Christ superstar. You are going to see her on the crucifix of your lives everywhere you go. Okay. Now that Joe is out and she's in. And so the 2 points I want to make about Kamala, remember in the beginning of this, I said women in society don't even know how to handle women. This is a great example. So the 2 things with Kamala is how I feel both sides get it wrong when it comes to the whole DEI thing. And what I just said, which is don't underestimate, a school bus Venn diagram loving bitch, such as this, okay?
Who doesn't love a yellow school bus, right? Can you raise your hand if you love a yellow school bus? Right?
So first things first, I have to acknowledge the theatrics of just how sad yet hilarious yet reality TV our real lives are. In Joe Biden being fit for the presidency, having all of this vigor, having honor and dignity, and being the best man to run the free world. And now they all conspired, all the Dems conspired to get this guy to push him out. And now that he stepped out of the race, it is a noble cause. And now on top of it, because speaking of satire, it's like you truly can't make it up. Kamala Harris is the best thing that ever walked. She is actually the spawn of Jesus. Okay. Now she's going to be the best thing you've ever seen. So so that's that, in and of itself. And so now what I will appreciate about this whole thing is I feel both sides have completely memeified this entire situation, namely honing in on how Kamala Harris has been caught saying perhaps not the best or brightest things, right? Saying things like that just are sort of convoluted and don't really make sense. Like I said, her love of diagrams,
I love Venn diagrams. I really do. I love Venn diagrams. It's just something about those 3 circles.
Elon Musk tweeted the other day an old clip of her where she's like, she's in a meeting and she's like, I'm Kamala Harris. My pronouns are she, her. I'm a woman. I'm wearing a blue suit. It's like, okay, I need to know why the people in this room needed this information specified, but that's for a later time. And Elon wrote imagine 4 more years of this. Or how could I forget? We're unburdened and then we're burdened and then we're unburdened by what has been and then we're unburdened. There could be 100 people in the room and it only takes one and we're in the context, but the context that lives according to the context is lady, I'm confused. I think you're confused.
Talking about the significance of the passage of time, right? The significance of the passage of time. So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time in terms of what we need to do. And there is such great significance to the passage of time.
I don't really know what's happening, but moreover, right? And people love to say that she's not smart and she's an idiot because in the last race, she actually dropped out before the primary because she didn't have enough votes, didn't have enough support, perhaps wasn't as likable, right? But that's not about this today. This is about the fact that people keep honing in on, namely the right, how she is so incompetent. That's the word they keep using, incompetent. And I saw a really interesting clip with Van Jones, who is, a CNN contributor. He used to be an advisor for Obama. And he's, as a Black man, and he's speaking with a Black woman who's an anchor, says, and I actually thought that there was a merit in this, says, these people have to come up with a different word than incompetent because we as Black people are going to hear that from white people a certain type of way. We have been told for 400 plus years that we are less than, that we are stupid, that we are not worthy, that we're smaller, that we're whatever it is.
So when you have someone who's overcome all of that again and again and again and again, and that's the word you pick, incompetent, I'm just going to tell you, it's not going to work as well for you as you think it. And what you're going to wind up doing is getting a lot of people who are not going to vote, who really did not care, who were sick of all of it. People are going to crawl through broken glass to vote against a party who says that about a Black woman. Pick another word. Don't pick that one.
Right. And so I actually that really made me think, I'm like, right, even me as a white woman, I don't know, not to sound all, DEI, wokey, whatever, but it's true. I don't know what people Kamala Harris, Van Jones, AOC, who we're going to talk about, all of them went through in their journey, how people perceive them, the kind of shit that they got, right? That would be respective to their own and different than mine. And he makes a great point, which is if you want to go in on her for her policy, fine, but pick another word than incompetent, because it's going to, historically, it's going to make us feel a type of way, which I actually really understand. And so this is why do not overlook this bitch, because she managed to become a California senator, an attorney general in California. And to all of you sitting here, you know, with your egos and your Jiffy Pops, can you say the same? I'm just saying, maybe Kamala Harris isn't the most intellectually intelligent, but she obviously has some sort of political intelligence and wherewithal, and I don't want to say conniving, but is a strategizer to have figured this out and to have gotten where she's gotten, right? And I actually love what Megyn Kelly said about this. And she said, I'm a woman, I have daughters. I would love nothing more than to see the first female president. I think that's amazing. Personally, this ain't it. This ain't it for me. And I think that that's totally fair. And there's also an element of it where it is hypocritical. We've heard all the live long day from these people, how we have to uphold democracy, the threat to democracy, this, that, all the live long day. We're speaking it in tongues. And how ironic that they're the ones now, like out of nepotism, out of a hat, just like a magician, to essentially strategically pick Kamala Harris without getting the vote from the people in a democratic way to potentially be the nominee for the 2024 election, right? It's like, this is the most undemocratic thing, and you guys have put your whole fucking life's mission in the hill to die on about upholding democracy. So again, that's something I could see where it's like, we ain't for this. Like, this isn't a participation trophy situation. Give it to somebody who really deserves it and earned it, right? And so, and this is where, again, like the whole DEI thing comes into play, because you have conservatives. This is where I think, again, both sides get it wrong, because conservatives are bent on, she's completely incompetent, she's worthless, she's unlikable, she's a moron, which again, don't write her off as a moron, okay? And she's obviously, again, managed to get this far. And that's all she is merely a DEI figurehead token, right? But I also feel like the left gets it wrong because they put so much emphasis on that, because she is a Black woman, the first Black woman in politics in our country to get this far. She is God. She is almighty. She can walk on water. She can part the Red Sea. It is everything we've ever seen and more. And that's not true either, right? Like for me, I want the person who is best for the job. Me personally, I think it can be both things. Yes, it's really great that we're seeing Kamala Harris shake up the system of old white men, and it's refreshing to the eye and it's inspiring, right? Being in these positions. So, okay, like why can't anybody on the right ever give a hats off to that? Like, yes, good for her, But at the same time, I personally don't agree with her policy, but then attack that. Or debate or challenge that, not on the premise of who she is, what she looks like, all those other things, right? Because that's like you're falling victim to the exact thing, the left does with identity politics. Who said this actually was Ted Cruz. He's like, don't underestimate Kamala Harris as some cackling, hyena laughing woman. Who just moseyed her way in and is happy to get this thing. You guys know, I have been warning you, Prophet Taylor, Nostra Taylor has been saying this for months. Don't underestimate her conspiring to poison sleep. Every time she's smiling ear to ear like the Joker with Joe Biden, she is thinking, bitch, I'm next in line. She's no dummy. Has been you'd think she had no part in any of this and wasn't planning and plotting all of this. So I'm saying that's something to be aware of, right? And this goes again back into our obsession with diminishing and dwindling women's power. And again, whether you love or hate her politics, that's just the truth. And the fact that both sides love to tokenize the people of color on the other side. So to the left, they love to say how people like Tim Scott and Vivek Ramaswamy and now Amber Rose are just the token people of color, for the right. And they're touted around and propped up. And the right will do it with the left, right? Kamala Harris, AOC. They both do this. And that's like a little sidebar in and of itself, not only with women, but like, why you guys got to do every person of color like that? Like maybe they're just a person. And so going off of that, that's where, has she leaned in, like Sheryl Sandberg leaning into the fact that she is, she is Black and a woman. And yes, in my personal opinion, as has Tim Scott. Now, Tim Scott has had arguably, grew up in poverty, had ancestral line of slave. I think his great-great-grandfather was a slave. Either way, like great comeback and story of the American dream. But I think that it's like, yes, I understand why someone would lean into it. Absolutely. I lean into the fact that I'm a woman, even like the Kamala Harris thing, how we can all have different types of intelligence. I get it. No, I'm not, putting myself on the same playing field as Kamala. I'm just saying, like, I like to give myself a little credit. No, I'm just kidding. But I may not be the most in the weeds, intellectual, intelligent, but I have a different intelligence, right? Emotional, communicative, what have you. But so with that being said, I think it's important, but I don't think it has to be what the left does, which is everything that ever mattered. And this is who you are. So, and a sidebar actually off of that is the whole DEI controversy we're seeing now with the Secret Service, right? You have the director who stepped down in light of the Trump, what people called a big failure on the Secret Service's end of the Trump assassination attempt. And this is a whole slippery slope. And this is for, potentially another day. But it insinuates that women can't nor should they do this job just at face value. And you could argue a guy could have fucked this up, just like dudes, namely Biden, or the people on the ground fucked up the withdrawal in Afghanistan. Those were dudes. So it's not necessarily on the basis of being a woman. And if you don't know, there was an incentive to get 30% of Secret Service members to be women, 30% by the year 2030. So that's where this has come under fire, and I can see both sides. Because on one end, it's like, great, we should want more women in these roles, in law and enforcement, in whatever it is that they're not normally typically in. And I'm not going to lie to you, when I first saw the photos of that happening, and this woman, the one in front of Trump shielding him, they got shit for that, the Secret Service, because they're like, he's this big dude, she's this small guy, how is she going to protect him? First of all, who's to say she can't protect him? But secondly, I thought that it was so badass. I was like, look at this badass bitch. Yes. Like, that was the first thing that went in my head. Now, on the other end of it, you have people who are saying, well, you shouldn't merely pick, if you ain't filled that 30% by 2030, I don't want to see you, picking, in a game of Red Rover, who should be a female in the Secret Service. Like, again, it should be the people who are best for the job. And I saw pieces, even in Barry Weitz's platform, The Free Press, where they're like, even people said, as a woman, like, do I need women protecting me? And that's high level of security threat of the Secret Service? Like, not necessarily. Don't just hand it to a woman. So again, I see both sides of it. But this is where it's gotten, a little bit out of hand. And again, at the end of the day, the umbrella idea of taking the power away merely because they're a woman, which I think is bullshit. I think it should be a case-by-case basis. Again, I don't want any quotas, any token this, any DEI that. It should be yes, let's aim to get more people in there who have this as a calling and a passion, but the people who are best for the job. Okay. These people nowadays be hell-bent on, one pinky and rainbow hair and a Band-Aid over there and a pirate patch over their eye and a peg leg. And that it's like, no, the person best for the job. And so lastly, what I'll say is I actually had a turning point. I can be reflective myself, as I'm jibber jabbering to you, I can be reflective myself. And I actually had a turning point around AOC, because same thing with Kamala Harris. I fell victim to this as well. People love, just like Kamala Harris, to write AOC off as not smart, not very bright, and some dummy. And I will say this, I watched a live stream she did recently last week. I just came across it. And same thing with Kamala Harris. While I don't think Kamala Harris is a compelling communicator, I will say this about AOC, same thing in that I just disagree with a lot of her politics, but she has a way of communicating. I was like halfway through this hour-long thing and I couldn't stop watching. Like, it was very compelling. I was like, I just kind of want to hear what she has to say. She has a gift in her own way of communicating. And people, same thing with Kamala Harris, not so much communicating, but what she's mentally able to do. They can be sharks, and people should not overlook that. And you got a same thing with the Kamala situation, love or hate their politics, which again, that's what they should be focused on, what they can do for us, not tearing down each other and all this hazing bullshit. But the fact that AOC managed, let's not forget, and who can say this, to be going from a bartender, nobody, to the most well-known person in Congress. And that's powerful. That is not something to be overlooked. So same thing with Kamala. It's like, well, she did something right. She has some sort of gift. She figured something out. And I'll tell you what, bitch, I was watching and I was entertained, like I said, and I couldn't tell, like, she is no dummy. So she's smart in her own way, right? With all that being said, I would never want to see women hired or taken on as something just because they're a woman. Of course, nor would I ever want to see them not taken on as something because they're a woman. But my point with all of this is, how about we stop dictating what a woman can and can't do, what they can and can't be? Meritocracy. Let's restore meritocracy, people, right? The person who is actually best for the job, but also, okay, I don't know if you got to relinquish this to Pornhub or whatever you have to do, like along with your foot and whatever kind of fetish, but we need to relinquish this fetish we have with second guessing and undermining women's power. And that's what I got to say about that.